It's Thursday, April 16th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Home sales soften. Listings are lacking in a sluggish spring market. A maritime landlord is surprised by the level of destruction left by former tenants.
We get a break from the soggy spring weather to start the weekend. Rain returning for some on Sunday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. We know the difficulty many Maritimers have finding an affordable place to rent. Tonight, a story from the other side. A landlord shows us a unit ruined by tenants who have left him with big repairs and a bigger cleanup bill, all of which could drive up rent. Here's CTV's Ryan McDonald.
That's the piles of garbage waiting to go. We've seen some of the rooms. Let's go in the bathroom.
Dana Reed has been renting out apartments in the Sydney area for about 10 years now. The state that this unit was left in was something he felt ought to be captured on video.
Anyone that's watching this that's a landlord will just be nodding their head, being like they've dealt with this before.
Reed says this stove is only 2 years old but might not be salvageable. Climb the stairs to the top room and that might be where the biggest mess remains. Reed says 2 people were tenants here for about 2 years, but as many as 5 were living in the apartment at a given time.
A lot of people speculate that they're on drugs and that. No, these people were not. They work full time. They both work 40 hours a week. And yeah, they just don't clean anything.
We're seeing more of these type of situations happening. And so it's a concern for our industry.
The head of Rental Housing Providers Nova Scotia isn't quite sure why that's the case. As for any recourse, he says landlords can file a claim for damages under the Residential Tenancies Act, but
that's a lengthy process. But to be quite frank, it's very rare that you would recoup your losses from those situations, because the fact is that most of the people that are causing the problem can't afford to pay it back.
Kevin Russell adds that there are best practices for screening tenants, but there are no guarantees. Back at the apartment, Reed figures it will cost him at least a couple of $1,000s to get this place ready to rent again. He's not interested in the hassle of filing a claim against his evicted tenants, but wants people to know what landlords sometimes deal with.
I see a lot of people online, they complain about landlords. Oh, my landlord doesn't do this, doesn't do that. Oh, they're charging too much. Well, if people are paying more for their apartment, it's because this is the stuff that goes on.
Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Sydney.
From renting to buying now, the spring real estate market around here resembles the weather. Cool and dreary. New data shows fewer homes are being listed and sales are soft. Still, as CTV's Hafsa Arif reports, prices are holding up.
It's clear development in the Halifax area isn't slowing down, but the pace of buying and selling is a different story.
So we've seen a slowdown in terms of the number of people who are actually buying and selling, but surprisingly prices held up quite well. Average price continues to rise slightly.
That's because of fewer buyers and sellers, which has kept it steady. But throughout the rest of the year, projections are showing growth.
We revised ourselves upwards a little bit to, between sort of 2 and 4% in terms of what our expectation around average price increase over the course of the year is.
For realtors on the ground, the shift has been building for months.
The busiest time of year is sort of between now and July. In July, it slows down a little bit when it's the dog days of summer, but we'll be pretty steady from now until then.
Here you get tons of natural light.
And just like in years past, it's first-time buyers leading the charge. But that group has been feeling the pressure, especially when it comes to affordability.
The first-time home buyers will still come out and buy, just not in the volume and with as much enthusiasm as they have in past years. The challenge is more so with coming up with a down payment. A lot of young people are tight on cash.
What's happening both here and globally is also playing a role, from interest rates to international conflicts.
Our trade issues that we're having with the U.S. to, conflict in the Middle East, like all of that uncertainty causes people to make different decisions with respect to large purchases.
But not all areas of the city are equal. Some neighborhoods in Bedford or Halifax are still seeing homes move quickly off the market, which experts say will likely continue to be the case in the months ahead. Todd, the key word in today's market is patience. It's no longer quick decisions, but a more balanced approach for buyers and sellers. Todd?
Hafsa Arif in Halifax for us tonight. Thank you for that. A man charged with first-degree murder in the death of a Moncton woman made a brief court appearance this morning. Devlin Oblenis has been charged with first-degree murder in the death of Melissa Price. The body of the 39-year-old woman was found in a garbage bin at the bottom of a Moncton street in February. His lawyer told the court disclosure process has yet to begin and the case was adjourned until May. Oblenis hasn't entered a plea. Leandra Beaulieu, the other person charged with first-degree murder in the death of Price, is also due back in court in May. Melissa Price's parents were present in the courtroom again today, but did not speak to reporters afterwards. Amherst police have charged 3 people with first-degree murder following that shooting in the border town earlier this week that we reported on, but only 2 are in custody. 2 Monctonians. 56-year-old Sean Eugene Patriquin and 42-year-old Natasha Deborah Austin were arrested by Kodiak RCMP after warrants were issued this morning. According to police, Chris Leggett died from a single gunshot wound to the lower back following an altercation with 3 suspects. It all happened Monday evening when officers responded to reports of a loud bang near a homeless shelter in the town. Spring Hill native 34-year-old Michael James Ryan is still at large. Amherst police believe he is actively evading officers. The public is being asked to report any information to police or Crime Stoppers, but not to approach Ryan if you do see him. There's a live look at downtown Charlottetown right now, Queen Street, where it is, what you call that, Kaylin? Overcast? 9 degrees?
It's pretty cloudy across most areas of the Maritimes right now, so certainly some overcast conditions. And of course, Todd, we have some wet weather on its way in, so I thought we could start off by just taking a look at where we stand right now with conditions around the Maritimes and how things are going to be changing over the next couple of hours. So most temperatures right now in the region are sitting between the high single digits and low teens, but it's a cool, chilly, damp feel to the air where the wind is blowing in off of ocean waters, and that's shown here for a number of locations in the region, including for coastal areas in the Bay of Chaleur and then running out towards the eastern coastline of New Brunswick. I'm sure that same sort of effect is taking place around coastal areas of Prince Edward Island right now. It's really showing up at the coastal weather stations around the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia. We're at Canso. The temperature is being reported at 2 degrees right now, and even close to the city center of Halifax, the temperature closer to 3. Same thing goes for Lunenburg. You move away from the Atlantic coastline, though, and then some of those temperatures get back up between 8 and 12 degrees. Now, the winds at the moment are mostly at the east and the southeast. They're going to become northerly for tomorrow. They're not particularly strong right now, sustained between 5 and 20 kilometers per hour, a few gusts between 20 and 30. The rain that I mentioned is now arriving in the northwest of New Brunswick, and this is a weather front, and it's going to continue to move into the Maritime region as we head through this evening and tonight. So it's going to be rain and showers developing across the Maritimes. The rain is going to be a bit steadier through the north of New Brunswick. You can see here the darker greens, some of those yellows. It's coming in, sort of lined directly up into that part of the Maritimes. That's where there's the most likely chance of seeing some rainfall totals in the range of around 10 to 20 millimeters. Other parts of the Maritimes, probably going to see less than the 10 millimeter mark out of this weather system. There is going to be a gradual and slow clearing trend, partial clearing trend that sets up in behind it, and that leads into a pretty fair weather start to the weekend. And I'll have more on that coming up in the extended forecast a little bit later on, Todd.
All right, we'll see you in a bit for that. Thank you. A long-standing seniors care home in St. Stephen has announced it will close after more than 90 years. Higher costs behind the decision, which is causing a stir in the border town. CTV's Avery McRae has details.
For 91 years, St. Stephen's Lonicera Hall has been home to countless seniors in the community.
It was a shock.
Last night, the Lonicera Hall Board of Trustees announced they will not be able to operate beyond early summer, meaning the residents currently living at the 20-bed site will have to find new accommodations before then. According to a release from the trustee board, some reasons behind the closure include declining occupancy, with the facility currently operating at about half capacity, rising operational costs, changes in the senior care environment, and limitations of a volunteer-based governance model. Mayor Alan McCachran says the news has been tough for residents, with mostly everyone in town having some connection to the home.
As a teenager, I mowed the lawns here and did the landscaping for a couple of years. My grandmother worked in the kitchen and helped out. Everyone's probably got that one person that worked and helped out and volunteered at this Sarah Hall.
As for the future of residents currently living here, they'll be managed by residents' families, the Department of Social Development, and other community agencies like Extramural.
They've talked about some deadlines they got to meet, so we got to focus on the people that are living here. They have to find a home, and from what I've heard so far, the social development is working very well with them.
In a statement to CTV, a Department of Social Development spokesperson says they are actively working with the hall to better understand the circumstances and determine how they can support residents through the transition. The Board of Trustees at the Sarah Hall declined an interview today, but are encouraging residents and their families to contact them with any questions or concerns. Avery McCrae, CTV News, St. Stephen, New Brunswick.
We have a healthcare success story to tell you about. A program to encourage more people to become paramedics in New Brunswick is being extended. The province is offering money to students to fill the many vacancies. CTV's Derek Haggett reports, seems to be working.
Allison Ward has only been a paramedic for a few months, but she already loves her job.
The feeling of being able to help people every day, making a difference in their lives, it's incredible. It is hard, but at the end of the day, you're valued and it's really worth it.
The province is extending its tuition bursary program for paramedic and emergency medical technician students. It started last June. The goal is to recruit and retain more frontline healthcare professionals that are desperately needed.
The province's ambulance service is facing significant challenges and human resource shortages with 300 vacant positions today.
The program is open to students from 6 approved training programs in the Maritimes who make the commitment to stay in the province and work for Ambulance New Brunswick after graduation. But it's not an easy profession. Burnout and early retirements are driving the vacancies up.
It's physically challenging, it's mentally challenging, and when you're working in a system that's short of resources, the pressure to do the job you were trained to do is something that's really daunting.
It's also rewarding, but new paramedics need to prepare themselves for attending traumatic scenes.
The students that are graduating are prepared to meet those challenges, but we also ensure they're aware that they are human and they need to seek the help if they need it.
The programs we take, they really prepare us for what real life is going to be like and how stressful the situations can be. But luckily, we have a lot of resources available to help us with mental health and everything.
Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
Online, a story of another young Maritimer doing pretty well. The Toronto Maple Leafs have signed New Glasgow, Nova Scotia forward Landon Sim to a contract. We have details at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. As the city of Halifax struggles with its transit service, the province is the driver behind an idea to run buses into Halifax from outlying communities. CTV's Jesse Thomas looks at how it might work.
The wheels on the bus may soon go round and round from Halifax to rural communities within 100 kilometers of the city, as the province is exploring a commuter-style transit service that would connect the metro region to nearby towns like Truro, where Mayor Kathy Hinton says they need transit to move people and the economy.
I've been saying that for years. I said this could be a game changer for us. With our geographic central location in Truro, they don't call us the hub for nothing.
Right now, it's an idea. The province has put out a request for interest from transit providers interested in running transit services. The Minister of Public Works says a reliable, affordable transit system could help people access jobs, education, healthcare, and ease congestion.
Well, certainly the goal would be to have less vehicular traffic on the peninsula.
In Truro, Mayor Hinton says transit services would help at both ends of the road. At this time, Truro doesn't have public transit, but is studying the possibility of a joint bus service with the municipality of Colchester. A report on that is coming soon.
There's some people that can't even get to the city now. We'll use that between Truro and Halifax because they don't have the means to do that. This will open up a whole avenue for people.
Tilly says this is still in the information stage, and so big questions around ridership and schedules still remain, but government believes there's a service gap to fill.
This service is missing, and as you know, we're currently doing a study on light rail. So a project like this could start to build a ridership for light rail down the road.
The province wants to hear from interested transit providers by May 20th. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
We'll step aside for our first break in the evening. Still to come, a round of showers moves in tonight. Kaylin returns with the full forecast. But next, how do you like them apples?
This is a really good example of putting those seconds to good work and having them accessible to Nova Scotians.
Nova Scotia picks the local fruit for school lunch programs. We'll have details after this. School kids and hospital patients in Nova Scotia could soon be getting an apple a day. The province is picking the local crop for lunches and snacks. As CTV's Vanessa Wright tells us, it's a sweet deal for growers, too.
Soon enough, these crisp, crunchy ambrosias will make their way into schools, hospitals, even correctional facilities in Nova Scotia.
Just because it doesn't make it to the grocery store doesn't mean it's not valuable and useful to a farmer and for people to eat. So this is a really good example of putting those seconds to good work and having them accessible to Nova Scotians.
Before today, this rural food hub processed about 30 cases of apples per day. Thanks to new technology, workers can now generate as many as 300 per day.
So we do food aggregation, distribution, storage, and processing. So what you're seeing here today is our apple line, and it's a processing line that does sliced Nova Scotia apples.
The province partnered with more than 50 fruit growers, putting the healthy snack on the lunch menu for students.
Now, when we show students where it comes from, they think about it when they're in school. When we have the school lunch program, which we're so proud of, we're putting local food in as part of that program. So kids have that awareness, and it's definitely a win-win.
Local fruit growers say it was the obvious choice for an abundance of apples that would have otherwise gone to waste.
One of the challenges of being in agriculture is you grow for a fresh market, but you have lots of product and produce that doesn't necessarily meet the grade standards that you can sell to a grocery store. So it's essential in agriculture to have those secondary markets for things like pies, juice, applesauce, and as we see today, sliced apples.
It's a step closer to the province's goal of having 20% of food used in public institutions sourced locally, and after today, even more nutritious. Vanessa Wright, CTV News.
Thank you, Vanessa. Still ahead, a behind-the-scenes look at the Made in the Maritimes TV series From. But next, how long will this dreary weather last? Kayla Mitchell has the details in the full maritime forecast after this. Well, this is the mist hanging over York Redoubt National Historic Site this afternoon. That is just outside of Halifax.
Kind of gives it a nice ambiance.
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, I called it dreary weather. I'm not going to complain about the weather, Kaylin, because our fellow Canadians in a few spots across the country are having it particularly rough. Yeah. Peterborough seeing really some tough amounts of flooding going on there.
Yeah, so Peterborough, sort of in central Ontario. Yeah. I think you call that part of Ontario, central Ontario.
Yeah,
right?
central Ontario.
Yeah. They have been around the same stalled out weather front that we have been as well. And we keep seeing low pressure systems move up and along that front. So we get these successive rounds of rain and showers. The issue there is the ground has become very saturated, can't absorb any of that rainfall anymore, and that's contributing to the flooding issues. We have yet to run into that problem here into the Maritime. So we do have some more wet weather coming in tonight.
Ottawa seeing some flooding too, but not anywhere near the same amount as Peterborough area.
Yes.
But our good friends out west.
Oh, this is a different story.
A lot of us have family in Calgary. If you want to rib them, this might be the time to do it.
I've heard that it was a very slippery morning on the roads in the Calgary area as snow was coming down and accumulating. Last I checked at the Calgary airport, they're up to around 6 centimeters of snow. They are underneath a snowfall warning. that warns that overall snowfall totals could approach the range of 15 to 30 centimeters, so the higher end of that range would be most likely up into the higher terrain. There are areas just to the east of Calgary, moving towards Drumheller, they're actually underneath an elevated orange level snowfall warning. And Environment Canada in that warning is saying that some of the snowfall totals could approach 30 or 40 centimeters of snow. So there is a significant spring snowstorm making its way across the prairies. And of course, they dealt with one last week as well. By the way, snowfall warnings do extend into parts of southern Saskatchewan. You can see it's quite cold there now. Saskatoon sitting at -8 reporting snow, and Regina sitting at around -9. Winnipeg at around -1 right now. And parts of northern Ontario are actually underneath some freezing rain warnings. Now, southern Ontario, as we just touched on there with Todd, it's been some flooding issues because of these repeating rounds of wet weather. Ottawa's reporting rain right now, sitting at 14 degrees, as is Montreal, 3 at Quebec City. Here in the Maritimes, we've got 12 at Fredericton, 11 at Charlottetown, and 5 at Halifax. St. John's right now sitting at 3 degrees. Back to the wet weather that's moving in for us. It is going to be rain and showers developing northwest to southeast across the Maritimes as we make our way through this evening and tonight. There'll also be plenty of fog around as well, so be careful about areas of reduced visibility. Now, this round of rain and showers mostly exits east of Nova Scotia as we make our way through Friday morning, though there will be a lingering chance of some showers in the southwest of Nova Scotia. The cloud cover in behind it does break up tomorrow in New Brunswick. That province expected to get into some sunny breaks. There may be some peaks of sunshine late in the day for parts of Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. For Nova Scotia, highest chance of that will be in the north and east of the province. Rainfall amounts here over the next 24 hours in most cases will be in the range of around 2 to 10 millimeters, though some pockets of rain of 10 to 20 millimeters possible in northern areas of New Brunswick. Taking a look at the winds in the forecast, there'll be a change in the wind direction tomorrow. The winds becoming northerly in the afternoon. They'll be sustained between 10 and 20 kilometers per hour with some gusts between 20 and 40. It's going to be breezy. Most of the low temperatures for tonight will be around the low to mid single digits in the Maritimes. Tomorrow's temperatures actually on the mild to warmer side for this time of the year, especially in the province of New Brunswick, where that sun breaks through a little bit. Some highs in the north of the province could get up between 14 and 17 degrees. And down through central and southern areas of New Brunswick, well, for Fredericton and moving towards McAdam and St. Stephen tomorrow, high temperatures near 19, 16 for St. John, and then 14 for Moncton in the southeast. Prince Edward Island on Friday with high temperatures between 7 and 10 degrees in the east of Nova Scotia, including Cape Breton. Most of the high temperatures between 7 and 11. And for northern and central areas of Nova Scotia, high temperatures for tomorrow between 11 and 15 degrees. And the Annapolis Valley with high temperatures near 15, 13 at Digby, and the south shore of Nova Scotia with high temperatures around the mid-teens. In the extended outlook, taking a look at New Brunswick here, there's that mix of sun and cloud, so fair weather start to the upcoming weekend. And we have another weather front approaching from the west, bringing rain with it on Sunday. It's back to a mix of sun and cloud, but cooler temperatures on Monday and Tuesday of next week. That's followed by a chance of showers Wednesday into Thursday. For Nova Scotia for the weekend forecast, starts off with a mix of sun and cloud. High temperatures, low teens, except cooler on parts of the coast and in Cape Breton there, high single digits. Rain arrives late in the day on Sunday, finishes with some showers on Monday. Tuesday, a mix of sun and cloud, and then a chance of some showers Wednesday into Thursday of next week. For Prince Edward Island, mix of sun and cloud on Saturday, high temperatures near 11 degrees, increasing cloudiness during the day on Sunday with a high of 14, rain arriving Sunday night, finishing as showers on Monday, cooler temperatures in behind that system. It's a mix of sun and cloud, though, for Tuesday and Wednesday, and a chance of showers on Thursday of next week. Todd.
Very good. We'll see you towards the end of the show. Next, former Premier Sean Graham joins us to talk about the future of NB Power, electricity rates, and what role government has to play. We'll be right back.
Okay, so it all starts Monday morning. A chance to win $5,000 daily.
Start getting keywords with us after 7 a.m.
Also at 7:30 tomorrow, you could win a $100 gas card.
Premier Susan Holt has committed to making necessary changes to NB Power to address soaring electricity rates. That kind of move contradicts recommendations from a third-party review, which urges governments to stop interfering with the utility. Former Premier Sean Graham tried to tackle the issue of NB Power. He joins us now. He's in Toronto tonight. I want to get to these recommendations, 50 of them. We're not going to get to all of them, obviously, Sean, but we will tackle a couple. But first, let me ask you about this. New Brunswickers now paying just below 4.3% more for power. That started this week, I believe. Less than what the utility requested. Of course, it's hard for customers to see that increase, but will that set the utility further back, not getting what they had asked for?
Well, there's some pretty big challenges with the utility right now, not taking into account, or also taking into account that they didn't get the full rate increase that they wanted. They just announced this week that Point Lepreau is offline, and traditionally it goes offline in the spring when the St. John River water is flowing, and Mactaquac is operating at peak capacity for a 4 to 6 week period. But they've announced now that it's offline until August, which is, at a cost of $1 million to $2 million a day, which they have to incorporate into their business plan. They've also just announced $90 million of new funding that's going to be required to upgrade Coulson Cove, the biggest power plant in New Brunswick, which is a peaking power plant. So those immediate long-term costs, coupled with the fact that they're, not getting the full rate increase, but it is still substantial. It's above the rate of inflation. It's almost a 35% rate increase since 2023. New Brunswickers are feeling the pain, and NB Power's feeling the pain.
Yeah, it had been at 20% increase over the last couple of years, and now up to that beyond 30% mark. One of the recommendations urges politicians not to get involved with the utility, not to meddle with it. But right away, Premier Holt said she's willing to make significant changes to keep those rates in check. Should she?
Well, here's the challenge. And remember in 2009, we looked at selling the utility to Hydro-Quebec to face, some of these challenges today head on. And I'll accept full responsibility. We did a poor job communicating. It was hard to go out and tell everyone, like you had a secondhand car, how bad the car was, and then try to get top dollar for it.
Do you still believe that today, though? Would you still, if you were in her position, would you be trying to sell that idea today?
Well, that ship has sailed, unfortunately. I mean, today it's very clear that there's no one out in the marketplace that would be looking to buy the asset. We were at a certain period of time where the stars were aligned. We had a federalist government in Quebec. Jean Charest wanted to build Hydro-Quebec into a national company, make it a Canadian company, and he was willing to give us cheaper power rates here in New Brunswick and give industry and homeowners that relief to create a national company. So it was going to be a win-win for each jurisdiction. But, that opportunity no longer exists. But coming back to the government and the short-term decisions that they have to make, you had talked about political interference. Well, it was a political hot potato. We lost an election over it.
Yeah.
But then the Alward government came in and they campaigned on saying, we're going to keep NB Power and we're going to freeze rates for a 3-year period. Well, the report was very clear because of successive governments after ours that either froze rates, the Glant government included, or put caps in place. Well, that cost the utility $1.5 billion in revenue. And the independent report is saying today that lost revenue because of political interference should be now borne by the taxpayers versus the ratepayers. And that's the question that the government's going to have to answer, because if they take on that book, then the bond rating agencies are going to be very closely looking at New Brunswick. And, we just had a warning put on our bond rating rankings that we're now taking on debt of a utility that was never booked before by the taxpayers. And that extra liability then could be borne into our credit rating. So it's a big decision government's going to have to make from that report on what to do with that $1.5 billion worth of debt that needs to be transferred.
Does NB Power need provincial government to set a long-term vision for it, or does it need the government to get out of the way and let those who are running it run it?
Yeah, well, you got to remember, NB Power is not lily white here either. They, we had the Oremulsion fiasco under the Lord government, in which $800 million was spent to refurbish Coulson Cove, and we never had the fuel source. And then our government had to take the Venezuelan government, PDVSA, to court, and we ended up winning $200 million back. But it was far short of the $600 million that was lost. The big albatross around the utility's neck is Point Lepreau. It is, it's the least efficient fleet in the CANDU 6 reactor fleet across the world. Romania today is operating at a 90% capacity or 95% capacity. Our operational levels here in New Brunswick have never hit 80% since the refurbishment or within that range. And that shortfall costs the ratepayers a great amount of money for replacement power. So, you know, the government is going to look at the report and is talking about more nuclear power in the future. Well, the challenge is New Brunswick was the first to build a CANDU 6 reactor, and we were the first to refurbish. And if the Lord government had made the decision maybe to go with Bruce Power at the day, the private sector to take on that refurbishment risk, even though it was a higher cost than Atomic Energy of Canada Limited, which was the government crown corporation, maybe in hindsight we wouldn't be in this predicament today. But we are where we are now. We have an inefficient nuclear reactor. We're trying to build a new gas-fired plant in New Brunswick that's meeting strong local resistance. We have to upgrade Colson Cove for $90 million as a peaking power plant with more efficient scrubbers because it's burning bunker C, the most costly fuel there is.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're looking now at Beldoon as well at burning fuel pellets there. So there's some big operational costs that are going to be borne by the ratepayers going forward. But the biggest one, which we haven't mentioned, is Mactaquac Dam.
Yeah, well, that's
going to go from $2 billion to $9 billion now because all successive governments have avoided dealing with that issue because MB Power was such a political hot potato.
And that's going to have to be a whole other conversation. But look, we only have a few seconds left. I want to ask you a question that I hear sort of at the ground level. Next door, Nova Scotia, many customers are not happy with the privately owned utility, right? They think they're paying too much. Many in New Brunswick are not happy with the publicly owned utility. What's that tell you?
New Brunswickers are feeling the pain of higher energy costs. You know, everything's going up, but we don't have the luxury of other jurisdictions of heating with natural gas, and our power is more expensive than other jurisdictions. So that's why we were trying to tie it to Hydro-Quebec's cheap hydropower when we tried to do the deal, because that is the cheapest source of power. I think what the government's going to have to try to do is convince the federal government to take on that $1.5 billion worth of debt on their books, similar to what they did with Muskrat Falls. The federal government took on the cost overruns of Danny Williams' project at that time, and they were able to put that on their books, so it didn't impact their provincial credit rating. And I think the government of New Brunswick has to start building that case, and they can do that as a crown corporation versus a private sector company in Nova Scotia.
We're going to have to leave it there. Sean Graham, thank you very much. Certainly appreciate your viewpoint on this.
Thanks a lot, Todd.
We'll be right back with more newscasts after this.
The opinions expressed in this segment are solely those of the commentator. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of this station, CTV News, Bell Media, or its employees.
Murphy's Logic returns tonight. Steve Murphy has some thoughts on Mark Carney's newly minted majority government and how he got there.
And suddenly, Canada has a majority government. Okay, it wasn't exactly sudden. It took the combination of 5 floor crossings and 3 federal by-elections over a period of several months to give Mark Carney effective control of Parliament. There's been no shortage of grumbling, mostly from those who don't support the Liberals, that this is not how the system is supposed to work, that it is somehow anti-democratic for Mark Carney to cobble together the majority he was denied by a thread in last year's general election. But that's not the case. Under the current rules, this is exactly how Parliament is supposed to work. And that's the way it's worked for centuries. The person and party that command the confidence of the House govern as they see fit. Yes, Mark Carney engineered a majority in this case, but bear in mind, a government elected with a narrow majority in a general election could lose control of Parliament in exactly the same way. 1 floor crossing, 1 by-election at a time. All of that said, it may well be time to change the rules as they pertain to floor crossings. It's one thing for voters to knowingly tip the balance of power in a by-election, but something again for individual MPs to choose to reshape the government for their own reasons, which may or may not represent the wishes of the people they represent. Their voters should be consulted. If it's too cumbersome or costly to have a by-election every time a member crosses the floor, we could require all floor crossers to resign and reoffer as soon as another vacancy triggers a by-election in another riding. Such a rule would have resulted in 7 by-elections this week, the results of which might well have produced an outcome other than what we have now, or maybe not. But at least tens of thousands of voters, and not a handful of politicians, would have made the decision. I'm Steve Murphy.
And Steve will return. In health headlines now, Canada's culture minister thinks a social media ban for kids could be an important tool, but he says it's not a solution to the bigger problem of online harms. CTV's Amanda Debison has that and more in tonight's Lifeline.
Ottawa is looking closely at age restrictions for social media and chatbots.
Culture Minister Mark Miller thinks a social media ban for kids could be an important tool, but he says it's not a solution to the bigger problem of online harms. He says the federal government is very seriously considering a ban days after Liberal Party members called for one at their convention. Their non-binding resolution calls on the government to set 16 as the minimum age to access social media accounts. Miller says the grassroots have spoken and the government has to study that. Health Canada has approved the first needle-free epinephrine treatment for severe allergic reactions, a nasal spray called Neffy. The spray offers an alternative to auto-injectors like the EpiPen and could be available in Canada as early as this summer. Doctors say the new option may improve access and ease of use, especially for people hesitant to use needles. Experts add it won't replace existing treatments, but provides valuable backup as severe allergies become more common. Finally, a growing body of research is suggesting that certain types of movements may be more beneficial than others when it comes to health benefits. The intensity of your exercise may matter as well. A new study published in the European Heart Journal found that a small amount of vigorous activity may be linked to lower risk of 8 different chronic diseases, like type 2 diabetes, dementia, and atrial fibrillation. People who had more than about 4% of their total activity classified as vigorous had substantially lower risks of developing these conditions compared with people who had no vigorous activity at all. Vigorous activity is generally defined as exercise that substantially raises your heart rate and breathing. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
We're on the scene now with a TV series that is a Made in the Maritime success story. It was announced there will be a 5th and final season of the hit show From. That streams on Paramount+. CTV's Latavia Beezer got an exclusive on-set interview with the star of the show.
You picked a bad spot.
What started as a detour quickly spirals into a waking nightmare. A town full of monsters and survivors, an endless mystery, and a quest for the way back home. The forest doesn't feed on fear. It feeds on hope. MGM's From is scaring up its 4th season, and acclaimed actor Harold Perrineau's character, Sheriff Boyd Stevens, is feeling the weight of a town filled with terror, looking for a way home. But for Perrineau, it's certainly not the first time he's been lost.
Get these people home, Sheriff. Do everything I can.
Why do you keep getting lost?
I don't know. I keep getting stuck in places that I can't get out of. I get stuck on islands, prisons, the Matrix. You can't get out of anywhere. And so it just seems to be the thing that happens for me. Yeah, I think I just like the way, people try to figure out how to survive. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I just always think that's interesting. And I don't always do it in my life, but like the choices you make about living are often dictated by, your circumstances.
We got the very first backstage pass to walk the streets of Fromville. And for fans out there who may not know, this nightmare is filmed right here in our very own backyard. Fromville is actually here in Beaverbank, and Perrineau feels right at home.
I like it a lot. Yeah. The only thing that's a bummer about Nova Scotia is my family isn't here.
Oh, yeah.
But man, if they were here, we would be running around this town. But I really do love it. I have such a good time here. Our crew is amazing. Like our sets are amazing. amazing. We're on set now. Yeah, I couldn't be happier. I was driving in the car a couple of days ago, and I was like, wait, this might be it. I might be doing everything I want to do right now. I'm doing this show that I love the writing, I love the people. I'm driving myself to work. Look at that lake. I felt like I might be in the sweet spot.
After 4 seasons of playing a guy who got lost on a family road trip, Perino now sees things a little differently in his own life.
Being a part of this show, how is your take on family road trips nowadays?
Family trips are taken very carefully. My wife and daughter did a road trip this summer, and I was nervous the whole time, because it was just the 2 of them, and I was just like nervous, and I kept calling them. We're at Beale Street. Relax. Take it easy. I was, all right, but Beale Street is dangerous. Just don't.
You're like, I'm stuck here right now.
I know. I'm here at Monster, so everywhere is dangerous for me.
And season 4 of From premieres this Sunday. We'll go to break with what's on CTV tonight.
With Aaron and Peter. Join us for a special nostalgic edition of Foodie Friday tomorrow morning.
This one's going to give you all the feels tomorrow just after 8 a.m.
The Dow Jones closed in positive territory today, up 115 points. You may have seen in the 5 o'clock hour, we reported a lot more Canadians are buying electric vehicles now that a new federal program has kicked in. BNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez has more.
Statistics Canada is reporting a big jump in the purchase of zero-emission vehicles in February. New vehicle sales were actually down about 1% that month, year over year, to just over 124,000. But more than 12,600 of them were zero-emission, and that's a 47% increase from February of last year. It coincides with the start of a federal program that gives cash back to Canadians for these purchases. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is up to $72.98. West Texas Intermediate is up more than $3 to $91.17. Western Canadian Select hasn't moved much. It's at $70.41. And the TSX lost 103 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Caleb Mitchell has one more look at the forecast.
Thank you, Todd. It's damp and chilly out here right now on the weather deck. You can definitely feel that the wind's coming in off the ocean waters at the moment. A little bit of light drizzle falling. Let's take a look at a viewer picture for tonight. This is a beautiful shot. It's coming in from the other morning, and the sun breaking through, lighting up sort of that line of trees there in a beautiful golden glow. That was sent in by Catherine Stevenson, and it was sent in from Connell, New Brunswick. I want to thank Catherine very much for sharing that beautiful picture with us. Now, Connell, for tonight is going to have some rain move through, and starts off the day tomorrow cloudy, maybe some fog around, but the sun should break through in the afternoon. And as it does, temperatures come up, in the high temperature near 16 degrees. Start of the day for tomorrow around the Maritimes is going to be cloudy. There's some showers, some drizzle, and some fog. You can see the wet weather will be most widespread for the province of Nova Scotia. A lot of that clears off towards the east, moving into and through Friday afternoon, though there will remain a chance of showers in southwestern Nova Scotia. The sun breaking through for the province of New Brunswick, and maybe by around the mid to late afternoon, there might be a few peaks of sunshine for parts of Prince Edward Island and areas of Nova Scotia. Let's find out what's coming up on your Morning Atlantic.
Friday on Your Morning Atlantic, do you have your tickets yet?
The Kiwi 2 Home Lottery early bird deadline is midnight Friday. We'll visit the beautiful Grand Prize Show Home in Oakfield.
Start your morning with us Friday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Then at 6, with a new majority government, Prime Minister Mark Carney will unveil a rare spring budget update, a financial fitness checkup, one of the topics in Friday politics tomorrow night. And finally this evening, a life jacket worn by a survivor of the Titanic is going on sale this weekend. The jacket is the only one from a survivor of the 1912 tragedy to go under the hammer. That's according to UK auction house Henry Aldridge & Son. It's expected to fetch up to $650,000 Canadian. The garment you can see there was worn by a first-class passenger on the historic liner, and it's signed not only by himself, but others who were rescued in lifeboat number 1. It's part of a wider auction of Titanic and White Star memorabilia to be held at Henry Elridge & Son this weekend. And that'll do it for us tonight. That's a look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco here at 11:30. The app and the website have our updates anytime. I'm Todd Battis. Hope to see you right back here for the Friday edition. Until then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.